Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time. Today, we're going to talk about the social operating system we all use to turn disagreement into actual knowledge. Now, why does that matter? Well, this system is what lets us build a shared reality. And without a shared reality, large-scale cooperation is pretty much impossible. All you're left with is conflict and manipulation. Just so we're clear, this is a systems-level analysis. We're not here to give you personal advice or to make any moral judgments. We're just trying to understand the mechanics of how we, as a society, figure out what's what. Let's dive in. You feel it, right? We are living through this period of just profound information chaos. You've got disinformation, conspiracy theories, cancel culture, and these aren't just political squabbles. They're actually symptoms of a much deeper problem. Jonathan Rauch, the author we're looking at today, calls it an epistemic crisis, a breakdown in the very process of how we decide what's true in the first place. And look, this isn't some fringe academic theory. As former President Barack Obama put it, if we don't have the ability to distinguish what's true from what's false, then the whole marketplace of ideas just doesn't work. And if that doesn't work, our democracy doesn't work. That really tells you something about the scale of the challenge we're all facing right now. So that leads us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? In a world with so many competing views, so many biases, so many people acting in bad faith, how on earth is it possible for a society to agree on any set of facts? How do you build a shared reality out of all that noise? Well, this is where Jonathan Rauch introduces his big idea. He argues that for centuries, societies like ours have relied on this incredibly powerful but often invisible social operating system for sorting out reality. And he gives it a name, the Constitution of Knowledge. The core claim of the book is pretty simple. Truth isn't something that's just found. It's socially constructed through a really rigorous process. This constitution he talks about is a huge network of norms and institutions. Things like science, journalism, the legal system, that all work together to check ideas and critically correct errors over time. It's the system that stabilizes our whole understanding of reality. You can think of it like this. The U.S. Constitution gives us a governing structure for political conflict, right? Well, the Constitution of Knowledge gives us a structure for intellectual conflict. It's a system that's literally designed to channel our disagreements in a way that produces more and more reliable knowledge. Okay, so how does this system actually work? I mean, what's the engine that drives this massive decentralized network towards something we can call truth? Well, at its heart, it's actually surprisingly simple. The whole process is one of constant trial and error. So someone puts an idea out there. Then that idea gets subjected to a ton of criticism and checking from this huge, decentralized network of other people, all with their own biases and perspectives. When they find errors, those errors get corrected. And here's the key. Through this relentless process of public checking, our collective knowledge becomes more and more reliable over time. Now, to make this idea a little less abstract, Rauch gives us this one really powerful metaphor that kind of anchors the whole concept: checks and balances for reality. That's right. The Constitution of Knowledge works just like a system of checks and balances, but it's for reality itself. It's a network where no single person, no single group, and no single institution gets the final say on what's true. And the analogy really works well. The U.S. Constitution was built to prevent the tyranny of government, right? Well, the Constitution of Knowledge is built to prevent the tyranny of a single belief. The U.S. Constitution channels political ambition for the good of the country. The Constitution of Knowledge channels intellectual ambition in the search for truth. And in both systems, you have to persuade and compromise with other people to get anything done. This entire system is really built on two fundamental principles. First, there's the fallibilist rule, which just means anybody can be wrong, so nobody gets the final say. Every claim has to be, at least in theory, open to being challenged. And second, there's the empirical rule, which says that nobody has personal authority. It doesn't matter who you are, what your status is, or what your credentials are, your evidence and your arguments have to be checkable by others. Okay, so if the system is built on those two powerful rules, what happens when those rules get attacked? Using this framework, we can start to see today's information chaos not as some partisan battle, but as a series of mechanical failures in this error correction system. The attacks are aimed right at the gears of the machine.
So the first failure mode is what we might call trolling or disinformation. And the goal here is not to win an argument, it's to break the system. By flooding the network with just a fire hose of false, contradictory, and crazy claims, you exploit the network's good faith. You force it to spend all its time and energy debunking junk, and that just overwhelms its ability to verify anything. The whole point is to create chaos and exhaustion, making it impossible to tell the signal from the noise.
The second failure mode is canceling. This tactic works by making the social or professional cost of disagreeing way too high. From a systems point of view, it's not about proving an idea wrong. It's about intimidating the person who said it. And that creates a chilling effect that just shrinks the pool of critics. And if people are too scared to propose new ideas or to point out errors in old ones, the whole error correction machine just grinds to a halt. It starves the system of the one thing it needs to work: open criticism. So really, the crucial takeaway from all of this is that it forces us to completely rethink what truth even is. It's not some static object that we discover. It's a dynamic, social process that we have to constantly be a part of. And this isn't a new idea. The philosopher Charles Sanders Peirce saw this more than 100 years ago. Reality, he said, is public by its very nature. It's what a community of people, all searching for answers, would eventually agree on if they could investigate long enough. It's fundamentally social. And that leaves us with a really provocative thought. We often think of truth as this personal thing, a private conviction. But what the Constitution of Knowledge shows us is that reliable public knowledge actually depends on a system outside of ourselves. So the real question isn't, what do you believe? The real question is, how are you participating in the difficult, collaborative process that finds out what's true? This episode is based on the Constitution of Knowledge, A Defense of Truth by Jonathan Rauch. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind crisis in perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer, audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.